Are you an introvert? Do you prefer a deep, one-on-one conversation to a loud party? Do you often do your best and most creative thinking when you are alone? Do you feel like you need to retreat and recharge after a day of intense social interaction? If so, you have probably spent a good portion of your life feeling like there's something wrong with you. Our modern world, and particularly American culture, is a place that seems to be designed by and for extroverts. We are taught from a young age that the ideal person is gregarious, is charismatic, is a people person, is comfortable in the spotlight. But what if this is all a mistake? What if there is nothing wrong with you at all? And what if your quiet, thoughtful nature is not a weakness to be overcome but a hidden and profound superpower? In her revolutionary and world-changing book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, the writer Susan Cain launches a quiet revolution. This is not just a self-help book. It is a powerful, science-backed and deeply philosophical exploration of the power of introverts. It is a manifesto for the thoughtful. It is a journey to reclaim the lost value of the quiet mind. And it is an invitation to see the world, and yourself, in a completely new and empowering light. To understand the importance of this book, you first have to understand the powerful and often invisible cultural bias that it is fighting against. Cain calls this the extrovert ideal. The extrovert ideal is the pervasive and often unspoken belief that the ideal self is a social butterfly. It's the person who is the life of the party, the smooth-talking salesperson, the charismatic and commanding leader who is comfortable on a big stage. We see this everywhere. Our schools are increasingly designed around group projects and class participation. Our workplaces are dominated by open-plan offices and a relentless emphasis on teamwork and brainstorming sessions. We are told that to be successful, you must be a great networker. But Cain shows that this has not always been the case. She takes us on a fascinating historical journey. For most of Western history, particularly in America, we lived in what she calls a culture of character. In this world, the ideal person was valued for their inner virtues, their integrity, their honor, their discipline, their moral fiber. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He was a quiet, thoughtful and often melancholic man, but he was revered for his character. But in the early 20th century, something profound began to shift. America was transforming from a rural, agricultural society to an urban, industrial one. People were no longer living in small towns where everyone knew them and their family's reputation. They were moving to big, anonymous cities, where they had to sell themselves to strangers to get a job. And so, a new ideal was born. We shifted from a culture of character to a culture of personality. In this new world, what mattered was not just what was on the inside, but how you presented yourself on the outside. Charm, charisma, and the ability to make a good first impression became the new virtues. This was the age of the salesman, the age of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was the age that began to worship at the altar of the extrovert ideal. Introversion in this new world came to be seen not just as a personality trait but as a kind of pathology, a problem to be fixed. So what is introversion really? One of the most important contributions of Quiet is that it provides a clear, scientific and biological definition of the difference between introverts and extroverts. And the most important thing to understand is this. Introversion is not the same thing as shyness. Shyness is the fear of social judgment. It is a form of anxiety. Many extroverts are actually quite shy. An introverted person, on the other hand, is not necessarily afraid of social situations. They might be a brilliant public speaker or a fantastic conversationalist. The key difference between introverts and extroverts is not about their social skills, it is about their relationship to stimulation. It all comes down to how our nervous systems are wired. Extroverts have a nervous system that is less sensitive to stimulation. This means that to feel awake, alive, and engaged, they need a lot of it. They crave the noise of a party, the thrill of a new experience, the energy of a big group. Introverts, on the other hand, have a nervous system that is much more sensitive to stimulation. This means that they can feel overwhelmed by the very same level of stimulation that an extrovert finds energizing. For an introvert, a quiet evening with a good book or a deep conversation with one or two close friends can feel deeply engaging and fulfilling. A loud, crowded party, on the other hand, can feel like a sensory assault, quickly draining their social battery. Cain details the groundbreaking research of the developmental psychologist Jerome Kagan, who studied this difference in infants. Kagan found that some babies were high reactive. When exposed to new stimuli like a popping balloon or a colorful mobile, they would thrash their arms and legs and cry with intensity. Other babies were low reactive. They would remain calm and quiet in the face of the same stimuli. He followed these children for years, and he found a stunningly consistent pattern. The high reactive infants, the ones with the more sensitive nervous systems, were far more likely to grow up to be thoughtful, cautious, and introverted adolescents. The low reactive infants were more likely to grow up to be outgoing, confident, and extroverted. This is a profound and liberating insight. Your temperament is not a choice, it is a part of your innate biological makeup. There is no better or worse way to be. They are simply two different and equally valid strategies for navigating the world. Because our culture is so dominated by the extrovert ideal, we have been taught to see only the strengths of the extrovert. But quiet is a powerful celebration of the often overlooked and incredibly valuable superpowers of the introvert. The first of these superpowers is the capacity for deep work and creativity. As Cain points out, solitude is a crucial ingredient for creativity. The most creative people in many fields are often introverts who have the ability to spend long, uninterrupted hours alone in a state of deep, focused concentration. This is the state where you can have your most original thoughts, where you can solve the most complex problems. A world that is constantly demanding teamwork and collaboration is often, unintentionally, a world that is hostile to the very conditions that are necessary for deep, creative breakthroughs. The second superpower is the capacity for thoughtful, quiet leadership. We have a stereotype of a leader as a charismatic, backslapping, and dominant personality. But research shows that this is often not the most effective style. Introverted leaders are often better listeners. They are more likely to take the time to hear and to implement the good ideas of their team members. They are often more prepared, more cautious, and more thoughtful in their decision-making. Cain holds up figures like Rosa Parks, Mahatma Gandhi, and Abraham Lincoln as examples of powerful and world-changing introverted leaders. She tells the story of Rosa Parks, who was not a fiery, outspoken activist. She was a quiet, dignified woman whose power came from her deep moral conviction and her unshakable inner strength. Her quiet no on that Montgomery bus was one of the most powerful and effective acts of leadership in American history. And the third superpower is the capacity for deep, one-on-one empathy and connection. While extroverts are often masters of social breadth, of having a wide circle of acquaintances, introverts are often masters of social depth. They tend to prefer a small number of deep, meaningful friendships. They are often excellent listeners, and their quiet, calm presence can make other people feel safe and understood. Armed with this new understanding of the power of the quiet mind, Cain launches a powerful and evidence-backed critique of some of the most common practices in our modern schools and workplaces. She takes direct aim at what she calls the new groupthink, the modern obsession with constant collaboration. This is the world of the open plan office, a design that is supposedly meant to foster communication and teamwork, but that for many people, and especially for introverts, is a nightmare of constant distraction and sensory overload. It is a world where it is almost impossible to find the quiet, uninterrupted time that is necessary for deep, focused work. The same is true in our schools. There is a growing emphasis on group projects and on grading students for their class participation. This system, Cain argues, is deeply biased against the introverted child. The quiet, thoughtful student who is doing their best thinking in their own head is often penalized, while the more talkative, extroverted student is rewarded, even if their contributions are not as insightful. This is not an argument against teamwork. It is a philosophical argument for balance. We need a world that has space for both collaboration and for quiet, solitary contemplation. We need to create schools and workplaces that are designed to get the best out of all personality types. This might mean more private offices or quiet rooms in an open-plan office. It might mean giving students the option to contribute to a class discussion in writing, not just by speaking up. It is about recognizing that a world that is designed only for the loud is a world that is missing out on the immense talents and contributions of the quiet. The final part of quiet is a deeply practical and compassionate guide for how to thrive in a world that can often feel like it wasn't designed for you. For introverts, the key is to learn to honor your own temperament. This means consciously carving out what Cain calls restorative niches in your life. A restorative niche is a time or a place where you can go to be your true introverted self. It could be a quiet walk in the woods, a corner of a coffee shop with a good book, or just a few minutes of silence in your car between meetings. These are not luxuries, they are essential for an introvert's well-being. She also gives practical advice for navigating extroverted situations, like parties or public speaking, and for understanding the power of a free trade agreement. The idea that you can, and sometimes should, act like an extrovert when you are doing work that you love, or that is deeply important to you, as long as you give yourself time to recharge afterwards. For the parents of introverted children, the book is an essential guide. She offers powerful advice on how to see your quiet child's temperament, not as a problem to be fixed, but as a gift to be nurtured. She encourages parents to push their shy or cautious children gently out of their comfort zones, but to do so with empathy and respect for their natural pace. It is about creating a safe and loving environment where a quiet child can blossom into their own unique and powerful self. And for leaders and managers, the book is a call to create a more inclusive and effective workplace. It is about learning to recognize and to value the quiet strengths of your introverted employees. It is about understanding that the person who is the loudest in a meeting is not necessarily the person with the best ideas. It is about creating a culture where there are multiple ways for people to contribute, and where both the talkers and the thinkers can do their best work. The ultimate message of quiet is a beautiful and profound one. It is not an argument that introversion is better than extroversion. It is a powerful philosophical plea for balance. It is a call for our culture to recognize, to value, and to make space for both ways of being. A healthy, creative, and successful world is not a world where everyone is a loud, charismatic leader. It is a world that understands that there is a time for speaking and a time for listening, a time for collaboration and a time for solitude, a time for action and a time for contemplation. It is a deep inquiry into the full, beautiful, and necessary spectrum of human personality. If you are a person who believes in the power of the quiet mind, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Geeky Philosopher. Subscribe, and let's continue to explore the philosophies that help us to understand ourselves and our world more deeply.